Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast. Today we have an amazing special guest, Amy Turner. She is the No BS coach and therapist. Are you a therapist or coach? I may just start that over.
I'm both. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I do
okay.
both. I do therapy, hypnotherapy, and coaching.
Oh, perfect. And you can say that. So,
Yeah.
all right. I know, sometimes I'm better live. Okay.
I know, because you just have to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast. Today we have an amazing special guest. She is a no BS therapist, coach, and hypnotherapist, and we are going to be going over how you can break free from past trauma or pain. Maybe you feel like you're being blocked from the success, the happiness, and the love that you desire. And I'm bringing her on to kind of talk about why it's important to heal and recover from maybe some of the past things that's happened in your past. So here she is. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, Tia. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. So, yes, Amy Turner, Nobius therapy and coach and hypnotherapy. So, I kind of combine it all because I really feel like, to really get to the root cause of why people have the issues that they have in the first place is whatever they're holding back on, whatever their walls are, their barriers. It's like you really have to get to that root cause. And that's why I do that with the hypnotherapy first. And then that's when I switch over to more like the therapy and coaching, where we're integrating what we learned in the hypnotherapy into real life.
Okay, and for anybody who doesn't know, what is hypnotherapy?
So hypnotherapy it's so interesting because I have like a scientific explanation and then I have like more like okay, so it's basically the way that I like to tell clients is it's like your conscious mind is sleeping. It's like a deep meditation. Your conscious mind sleeps because your conscious mind is the part of your mind that wants to protect you, that is kind of can be resistant, can have the walls up. And so when that part of you is able to sleep in a safe situation, mind you, then that's when every single memory that is ever stored is in your brain somewhere, usually in the unconscious, and then it can come out into the subconscious. And that's what we work with in your brain, in your mind, is find out these patterns that are running in the subconscious. So to be short, hypnotherapy is to get into the subconscious and see what beliefs are running you.
Okay, great. What's a good example that you've had from past clients that you've worked on?
Oh my gosh, so many. I mean, I've been doing this for like 2.5, almost 3 years now. So I'd say one client that comes to mind. So one client that comes to mind that I'm actually working with right now, which is really fun. So I worked with her individually first, and we did some money blocks, and we were able to go back into her childhood and see how her dad always had this this money lack. And so if she ever made any more money, or if she was given a present, her dad would make her feel bad about it. And so, yeah, and so different memories came up during hypnotherapy of her dad making her feel bad for having money. Granted, that's why she turns away money, and she doesn't do it on purpose, but her
Yeah.
subconscious finds the reasons why it's not going to work for her and turns it around. And right now she's in my group therapy. So we've worked personally, now we're group. So we're just really integrating everything. And she just sent me a message yesterday saying that she quit her job. She got a new job in the place she's always wanted to work at. And investors are throwing money at her. And she's like, all my fears and doubts are coming up. And I'm like, no, like this is what you've wanted. The whole time we've worked together. So of course the fears and doubts are going to come up because that's what happens. We go to like a really big vision and we start to see it come true. And then our inner critic, those fears and doubts just come out so strong. And so I'm like, well, this is a good thing. Look at it this way. Because they're coming out so strong, it means that you really are hitting your purpose. You're really getting what you want and keep going that way.
Ooh, do you think that, when you start to identify new things and you're growing, that, yeah, it's almost even stronger because you're changing? Like you're changing literally how your brain works and how you react. How could you kind of talk about that?
Yeah, it's so fascinating. That's why it's like I used to be, I mean, I still do therapy kind of. I keep my license basically, but it's so fascinating because hypnotherapy, I mean, what would take me years to get clients to go to, a client can get in one hypnotherapy session where we just get to that root cause. And once you get to the root cause, everyone knows is it's like repetition, repetition, repetition. That's how you change a habit. That's how you get what you want. And so that's what hypnotherapy does is it's that repetition. So after the session, then I made her a personal recording that she listens to every single day for at least 30 days. Although this client, she told me she's been listening to it morning and night, and she's been listening to it past 30 days. And that's why all of these investors are showing up. That's why she's getting the job and the location that she wants, is because she's getting it into her subconscious mind what she wants. And that is overtaking the old subconscious belief that is telling her she can't have it because her dad's going to feel bad, and the lack mentality.
Yes, that's amazing. Okay. So for the people listening, I'm trying to think, how could they identify that they maybe feel blocked or that something's not working out for them, and how to kind of identify that there is something there that they do need to work on? Yeah, just
Yeah. So, I mean, if you think about it, I really feel like just as humans in general, we all have these walls, we all have these blocks. So if someone's like an entrepreneur and they're driven and they're going, 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 eventually something's going to give, whether it's a relationship, whether it's their health, whether all of a sudden they have clients and all of a sudden they're gone. Like different things will show up in your life. Like that's the thing. It's like if you don't do the work, if you don't find the blocks, if you don't see what you've been suppressing, it's gonna show up in your life somewhere. And another thing too is it can show up really big in the body. Like if you have some suppressed emotions, some suppressed trauma, it doesn't even have to be trauma, just suppressed emotions. Like I know I've worked with a lot of females because obviously I needed to work on it myself, is to get them in touch with their anger, because it's not okay for women to be angry. And so I've worked with a lot of women with that, where it's like, no, it's okay to be angry. It's okay for you to have that emotion, because if you don't, then it's going to show up in some kind of illness in your body. Then it's going to come out with your relationships. So it has to come out. If you like, the only way through, or the only way out is through. So it has to come out. So that's the question, is like all these people that are driven, eventually something will show up in your life where you're like, okay, I need to look at what's going on.
yes, yes. And for me, this may help somebody. I was realizing that I have such high potential, and like when I worked for a job, I was able to have that steady income and attract abundance constantly. I was very good with money. And then as soon as I was on my own, like it was all up to me, I think my past mom money issues came into play. Like always struggling and always like pinching pennies, and literally always, when it wasn't like that when I was working for myself. And then it broke down into like I wasn't worthy of it on my own. And this is like some deep work I've already been through, you guys. So I'm going to ask her like how you can identify it, but pretty much I felt blocked. I felt like I couldn't get what I knew I could achieve, and I felt that block, and I was like, what is wrong? So that's kind of, I'm very intuitive, but how would you help them identify what they need to work on, or what are the next steps?
Yeah. So like I said earlier, it's like something's going to show up in your life. Like what is not working for you? And then, so if it's money, if you're noticing like some money blocks or something, then I'm a big believer. I know a lot of people believe the way I do, but some people don't. And all of this stuff stems from your childhood, because our brain is developing until we're 25 years old. This is where we're taking in all of the information, all of the beliefs. And so if someone has a money block, it always comes down to their childhood and what were they taught about money? What was the energy around money growing up? What did they learn? What did they not learn? Was there lack? Was there abundance? I mean, it can even be someone could grow up with an abundance of money, and then they don't feel loved because it just feels like their parents or caregivers use money to buy their love. And when you're a kid, you don't care about money. You don't care about things. You want the love and attention and acceptance and support. And if you're just getting things thrown at you, then that's what you think is your worth, is all of this money. So it can go very extreme. It can go abundance, growing up abundantly, and it can be growing up in lack, and it can be in the middle too. It's just what we learned and the beliefs that we've accepted and moved forward with.
And what would you tell the person that, say they're super busy and they're like, oh, I'll deal with it later. I'll deal with it when I'm already successful, once I've already hit, everything's perfect in this world that they think that they're going to reach some goal and everything's just going to fall into place. Like, what would you tell them to know, hey, maybe you should start a little bit now so it's easier later? Like, it's not just going to be this simple fix.
Yeah. It's that I'll be happy when, or I'll be ready when conundrum that I believe all of us kind of go, oh, I'll do this when I have that. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no, you have to believe you have that, and then you can have this. So, but what I would say for that is if you keep going, if you keep driven, like if you keep driving, it's gonna stop. Like, something's got to give. And if someone's like that and they're like, yeah, I'll do it later, I'm not going to deal with it, it's going to show up. And I would say majority of the time, it's going to show up in your body, and it's going to be some kind of illness to take you down, to slow you down to where you're not going to overwork yourself.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that actually gave me chills, but I've had circumstances where I've been in car accidents. I was overworking myself, and my body it was like the universe was like, you have to slow down. And I broke my leg one time. I've broke my back. Like, I'm one of those people that, wow, the universe will take control if I don't slow down. So, I mean, don't be afraid of that, but I'm saying it might be an illness or a sickness that's really like, you're going to have to slow down and get clear on past traumas and help deal with it now.
Yeah. And I love that you brought up the car accident, Tia, because that's not really a body illness. It could be, but that's another way that the universe is like snapping you, like, hey, pay attention. You are not in this reality right now. You are not present. And I'm a big believer there are no accidents. So I'm going to get you into an accident to wake you up and bring you back to this present moment.
Yeah, completely. Or a sickness, or I don't even want to get into that. But at that time, I was working full time. I had 18 credit hours in school. I was also I was working full time somehow, 40 hours a week. And I was on the dance team, and I was on a scholarship.
Wow.
Yes. And that happened. And it was literally, I fell asleep at the wheel, I think. I mean, I guess that makes sense, but I didn't know because it was day. It was broad daylight. I didn't feel tired. I've never fallen asleep before, and it just happened, and I walked away with nothing wrong with me, but it was like a wake-up call, like, I need to slow down if I'm falling asleep at 2 p.m. in the day.
Yeah, that's a huge wake-up call. There isn't really like an excuse. It's like, okay, I'm going, and my body's like, nope, done. We're going to sleep in the car.
Yeah. And I remember that day so vividly. So, I mean, for me, it's almost like if I don't take care of things, it shows up so dominantly that I can notice it. And right now it's, I work for myself, and I know I have this high potential, and I can't wait to take on more clients, but I was finding that I couldn't take on more than 1 or 2 clients at a time. And I've already been doing some work, and it was because of past trauma that my dad left me when I was 4 months old, and my mom has tried to leave me multiple times.
Wow.
So I know that's kind of a touchy subject that I'm going to work on now. I'm not fully healed on, or I'm working on it right now, but I've noticed that it was because I felt that if I took on more clients, they were going to leave me.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is
that's
subconscious.
so good that you know that. Sorry.
And this is subconscious. Like, I didn't think that. I wanted more clients. Of course I want more clients.
Yeah. But the thing is like, it's like our subconscious, the beliefs that we create, it's when we're kids. And so kids, we don't know any better. If mom or dad does something, we automatically think it's our fault. It doesn't matter. We don't have the brain capacity to see, oh, mom's dealing with some stuff right now, or oh, dad's doing this. Okay. Oh, dad's having a bad day. We can't do that as little kids. The world revolves around us. And if mom and dad are unhappy, then what did we do to make them unhappy, and how can we make them happy? And in your case, why, I mean, I'm just going to share it. And it's like, why am I not good enough? Why am I not lovable that my dad wants to leave me, or my dad left me and my mom continues to leave me? What's so wrong with me?
Yeah. And so it's really working on that issue. And of course I don't think that. Like, I don't obviously consciously, but then since I've been working on this, I'm like, oh, like it's literally a block in my business because I don't feel worthy enough. And so it's something you got to work on, especially if you're doing it yourself. I'm going to share, like, there was a point that all I was doing was working. And of course it should have made sense that I was super, super abundant, but because of these underlying issues, it like wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. So what would you say to anybody, like tips on getting over that past trauma, or maybe they do know what it is, and what would you share with them to dealing with it now, and that it's very important?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the biggest thing that I work with clients around this is it's like, it's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Your parents are doing the best. I always say this, your parents did the best they could with the information that they had. So I'm not sitting here blaming your parents. I mean, we are blaming your parents because we need to get our client, like I need to get my clients into their anger, into their sadness. Otherwise it's going to show up in the body like we talked about. So absolutely, I help my clients blame, get angry, get sad, like honor that inner child of them that happened to. And then also realize that your parents did the best they could with the information they had. I mean, in your case, Tia, maybe your dad was left, or maybe your mom was left too. And they're just doing what with the information that they have. And so like, that's one thing that I can't tell my clients enough is it has nothing to do with you. It's not your fault. It doesn't mean you're unlovable. It doesn't mean you're not worthy. Like all of these things that we make up in our mind that is like the labels we put on ourselves is not true at all. So that's the main thing, is getting them to see your brain hasn't formed yet. You're taking in all of these beliefs. The world revolves around you, and you think it means something about you. It means nothing about you.
Yes. And so I know I've talked to people and I've seen that they're kind of scared to go there. Like they're like, if I open this up, then it's never going to, like, pretty much they feel like it's going to open Pandora's box and take over their life.
Yeah. Yes.
So like, any share or tips on that? Because I mean, I believe the same thing, and I've been putting my mom part off because I feel like it's going to open Pandora's box and it's going to be so hard to shut. And I've been doing work on, I'm just going to be open. I've been doing, my dad work first, and I thought that was the underlying issue, but it actually was with my mom. And my dad part was easier almost. And so now I'm like scared because I'm almost not ready to forgive.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you gave me a lot of good stuff there. The last part you said, because I'm a strong believer in this, and I'm very different than a lot of people out there. Because you just said like I don't know if I'm ready to forgive. Mm-hmm. My stance is I think people forgive way too soon. Way too soon. We forgive to forget. We forgive to make ourselves feel better and move on. you don't need to forgive yet. You need to first feel those feelings, get angry, get sad, feel all those feelings, honor that inner, in your case, in that little girl, you know, that went through this first. And then that's when forgiveness isn't hard, because once you do the work, then you can come from a whole different place to forgive them. But if you're doing it, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but I'm saying a lot of people do this and a lot of people teach this, is, they don't say it like this, but this is what's happening. You forgive to bypass. It doesn't work at all. Instead, you have to get in touch with those feelings. And your first part is, I get this almost every single client. They don't want to open Pandora's box, right?
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Mm-hmm. And they're just like, oh my gosh, like, is it ever going to shut? Like, is it just going to take down my entire life? What would you tell them? I would tell them that when I did the work on my past, this is 28 years, you guys. This is opening something that I've kind of pushed to the side for a long time. And I did some very deep, quick work. And it took a whole weekend of, like, literally, I didn't talk to anybody and I was in my bed. Like, I wanted to get this out of the way, you guys. Like, I'm determined. But it actually felt freeing, and I opened up so much, and I felt almost like this, like, space in my body open up. So, like, I was able to love. I was able to care for people on a different level. I don't know how to describe it, but I don't know. For those people, what would you tell them if they're just so scared that it's just going to explode their whole life?
That's a great example, just what you went through, because you were scared it was going to explode your whole life. And now you're like, I feel so free and I feel so loving. I mean, you wouldn't have felt that free and that loving if you didn't go through it. So that right there, it's testimonials, it's proving, it's my own story. It's sharing that with my clients, where it's like, I mean, when I got started in therapy, I thought, I'm just gonna tell everyone, and this is no joke, you guys, like, I'm so much better now, but I didn't know what I was doing. And I thought I came from a very happy childhood. I thought I had the best childhood in the world, until I met my mentor, which did a 180 on me and showed me, Amy, that was not happy at all. And you had to dissociate and pretend to get through it. But when I became a therapist, I was like, I'm just going to tell everyone to smile and it'll be okay.
You're like,
No. And now that I've done, I mean, could you imagine all the damage I would have done to all of my clients if I didn't do my own work myself? And so for me, it's like, you become a better person just in general. The fact that you do it, you take your body, your health, your life into your hands when you go through this. Because Tia, you just shared, I felt free. I felt loving. Like, can you imagine if people actually did their trauma work? And it doesn't have to be years. There's so many methods out there besides hypnotherapy, what I do. I mean, I'm interviewing all kinds of people right now. There's so many things out there. And it's like, it doesn't have to be years, but you have to be willing to go through it, because what comes on the other side, that whole pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, so freaking worth it. And I went through hell with my therapist, my mentor. She's a shaman, mentor, therapist. And she did a 180 on me. And like I said, I thought my childhood was great. And she, like,
I love that you share that, FYI. Like, I feel like there's someone tuning in here being like, oh, my life was perfect. And honestly, everybody can improve.
Yes. And I get clients like that all the time. And the funny thing is, just to digress on that, is I'll get calls all the time. Oh, I had a great childhood. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me a little bit more. And I'll ask them some more questions. They're like, oh yeah, well, my dad used to hit my mom. And I'm just like, how is this a great, but that's the thing, is we have to believe we had a great childhood to continue on. And then when we're ready to go through the work, we see that it's not. But the thing is if you're working with someone like me, or a mentor, or a therapist, or a healer, whatever's out there, in a safe place, you can get through it a lot faster, and you will feel better on the other side. Like, I'm a completely different person. I'm so thankful I found that woman. She made me cry and scream and get angry. And there were times where I didn't want to live anymore because it was so freaking hard. And I look back and I'm so thankful I did it. And I would do it again in a heartbeat to be where the place I am right now.
Yes, and I completely agree with that. I even visited my friends just a couple weeks ago, just kidding, last week, and they could see a different Tia. They were like, "Wow, I like this new Tia." I was so much more open and ready to hear their side and holding space for them instead of my old energy would be to fix it. And I learned so much. Literally, you guys, it's been a month. I mean, I am a go-getter even in therapy. I'm just going to hit it hard. But like it can be fast. It doesn't have to be this slow, like, oh, I go home with a smile, or I don't know. I actually
Right.
was going to ask you that. Like, how is therapy online versus maybe in a regular sense? Is it a difference?
It's no different. I mean,
Okay.
I have people that drive to me because they want to be in person. Like they personally would just get more from it in person. So the furthest I've had someone drive is 6 hours to
Okay.
my office.
Mm-hmm.
But I have clients all over the world, all over the United States. And during the hypnotherapy, the only difference is I can't touch you. So in hypnotherapy, if someone's trying to get in their mind too much, you just like tap their head or their hand.
Mm-hmm.
And in online I can't do that, but I can snap. So it's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing. It's just more of a client preference and more
Mm-hmm.
of what the client, like the client's comfortability, but it works the exact same.
Okay. Um, so I did try therapy. I mean, maybe she just wasn't my ideal therapist. It was
Mhm.
very surface, and I'm a go-getter. I like to just get to the root of the problem and go quick. Um, I don't know if someone is interested, how would they find somebody online? Do they even take insurance? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so and that's so funny that you mentioned that, Tia, because it's like I always tell people you got to date your therapist. You don't
Yes.
just go in and just like, okay, this is the one. I mean, of course, if you're using insurance, it's a lot harder to
Yep.
find a good therapist that takes insurance. And if they're really good, they're busy, so you're not going to get in for months. Um, so, but you have to date around. Like you have to, it's not like the first person you go on a date with, you're like, I'm going to marry them and I'm going to tell them all of my secrets. It's like, you want to date around. I tell people, if you're looking for a therapist or a healer or a hypnotherapist or whatever you're looking for, get on the phone with them and ask them what work have they done themselves. And if they get offended, run.
Mm. Yes, run. Oh my gosh, yes. I'm so glad I asked this question.
Yeah.
My one of my clients actually, she was like, she left feeling worthless
Hmm.
because the therapist was projecting onto her all of her insecurities.
Whoa.
I know, and then she got in a session with me, and I was like, "Whoa," because she's a coach, and then the lady was a therapist, and she was like, "Well, you should go back to school, and you should do this, and well, why did you do this, and is that even a real job?" She was totally projecting on her.
Wow, yes, she was. Oh my gosh. Hopefully your friend or client just like ran out of there and never came back.
Yeah, she's dating around, but yeah, I could feel how hurt she was though from all those comments. And I would be too. And plus, when you go there for a relationship coach, and then she goes into pretty much tearing what you're doing in your life around, like your business, then kind of leave with a different sour taste in your mouth.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I'd go even further because this is just I'm a freaking analyzer and I love playing in the shadow work and I love seeing how I can improve. So I like if that was me, and I'm not saying everyone has to do this because not everyone's crazy like me, but like I would go into, okay, what did that therapist trigger in me, and if it triggered in me, what do I make that mean about me? Because if I didn't care what she said and I'm like, this lady's or this person is crazy, then I wouldn't think about it. But if I get triggered, then that person, whether it's her projection or not, they're triggering something in me, and if I'm reacting, it's something I got to look at.
Yep, 100%. And I tried to say that in the nicest way to her. I felt like it was a little touchy at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty much. Pretty much if they're triggering you so much, there's got to be something you got to touch on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's not easy to like talk to people about. Like you have to do it in a very like, methodical and very like compassionate and slow way. And if she's triggered coming to you, yeah, I can understand why.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, okay, I'm gonna ease this in slightly, and yeah, because I did not want to make it sound like she was in the right, the therapist, because she did totally tear her down. But yeah, but I brought it up in a nice way. I think she was able to look at it.
Oh, that's good. That means a lot about you then.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad. Plus, that was our like last month, so we'd already been working together for quite a while.
Oh, cool.
She'll probably hear this.
Yes. Now
Awesome.
she'll understand where you're coming from.
Uh-huh. Yes, and I love having someone that actually does this work kind of like back me up.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. And I had another question. Okay, so we covered, you don't want to keep avoiding your trauma. It will come up in your life. And I just had to say this again. I love that you said it's okay if you're not ready to forgive, because that's kind of where I'm at, and that's why I haven't touched that issue. And I'm very thankful because now I can go work on it and be like, okay, I'm not ready to forgive, but I'm going to get all the emotions out, and then maybe in the future I can.
Yeah. And you'll find here that it'll be so easy. It's not even like you're like, okay, it's time to work on forgiveness. You'll just be there. You'll get there. So you don't even have to like plan for it. It's just do the work, get in touch with your feelings, what went on for you. It could take, I don't know how long it's going to take. It could be a lot of tears and a lot of anger in there.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just telling you, it'll come up so easy when you're not forcing it.
Mm-hmm. And is there any tips on like making it so it doesn't take so much out of your time? Like, is it good to break it up in little pieces? On my dad one, I was just balls to the wall. I'm going to sit and cry for a weekend and journal this out. But now I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that with this other issue. Like, what would you say?
I don't know. I mean, you're so driven, and I know all your listeners are driven, and it's like I mean, if you're in a place, in an emotional place where you can just keep looking at stuff, just keep looking at it. I mean, that's the thing that we talked about earlier is people are worried like, oh, it's never going to stop. It's you, like whenever you have cried, eventually you've stopped. Whenever you've gotten angry, like if you're, I don't know, hitting something, like I always tell my clients to take like a very safe, but take like a plastic bat and hit their bed. And your body eventually gets tired. When you're yelling at someone, eventually you stop. So I think there's that stigma is, oh my gosh, if I open it, it's never going to go away. It's never going to stop. I'm always going to be depressed. I'm always going to be anxious. I'm always going to be in trauma. It's not true at all. Like our body, our mind, our spirit is made to release this out. And the longer we hold on to it, the more we're going to struggle. So the fastest you can release it, as long as you are in an emotional state where you're feeling safe and you can journal about your dad and mom at the same time. I mean, there isn't like, oh, it's better if you do this or this. Everyone's different. Just what works for you and what are you comfortable with?
It's very true. Very true. And I love that you said that. If you guys do want to learn more about, not just holding on to those emotions, I have a full podcast on that with Kate. So if you go check it out. It's like how to actually express those emotions and not just keep pushing them down. And yeah, it's so true. It releases, and eventually you'll just be done. Like instead of just pushing it down because you're scared it's going to take up your whole life, it will just be done, and then you'll feel better is pretty much what we talk about, but in a deeper sense.
Yeah. Like you said, you felt free, you felt more open, you felt more loving. It will happen. If you're feeling not free, if you're feeling not loving, if you're feeling not worthy, it's because you're holding on to some, I like to call them BS beliefs. You're holding on to BS beliefs that are not yours, that are not true. And the sooner you can go into them and find out where they came from and feel your feelings around them, the sooner you will have what you want. You will feel worthy and love and be more open and show up as a different radiating person.
Yeah, you literally, it's like a transformation. I felt like a new human. And that's only one step I've done in 1 month. So it can be fast too.
Yep.
So it is worth it. And I just, all my listeners, if there's something to work on, or even if you're curious, if this ignited something like, ooh, like I could improve, like look into it. How would you tell people, first of all, where would they find you? And also, if they're interested, how would they also find anybody else?
Yeah, so my website is nobstherapy.com because it's no BS. We get out of those BS beliefs and it goes a lot faster than most therapy. So hence the name No BS Therapy. You can also find me on Instagram at Amy No BS and on Facebook at Amy Turner or No BS Therapy. And the type of method that I use, I mean, I use a bunch of different things. I do energy techniques, I do all kinds of things. But the main thing that I use for the hypnotherapy is called rapid transformational therapy. And so if someone wants to find someone locally to them, they can just go on the website and find someone locally there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so, so much. I think I've gotten all my questions covered. And was there anything else you wanted to share?
I think just the main thing is just like whatever is happening in your life right now, whatever walls, whatever barriers you have, is just know that you can get through them and it's not your fault. And no matter what happened to you, that's the biggest thing. No matter what happened to you, it's not your fault. You don't deserve it. Has nothing to do with you. It's everything to do about the situation. And just chuck it. Just leave it. It's not yours. And just move on and find people. That's a big one, is find people who support you and love you and accept you for you because you can.
Completely. And that brings up something I feel like I really should share. If you notice that in your life, in your relationships, that you're continuing to have these repeating patterns, maybe somebody you constantly are cheated on, you're constantly getting in these really toxic relationships, you're constantly, for me, it was relationships would never really work out, but there wasn't really a reason. And I mean, this took some really deep diving for me. It was like, I'm able to be reflective on how can I improve and not putting it all on them. And I figured out like I wasn't opening up, which was super hard. I was like, oh, they're just leaving. They're just leaving. They're just leaving. It's all them. But that's never the case. All relationships are like a mirror, like we've kind of touched on. And so it may not be your fault that they're cheating, but there may be another issue underlying it. Or
absolutely,
whatever the repeating pattern is.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you guys so much. And thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you for being on my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
Awesome.